Welcome to the Strategy Mob Podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? This is Jason Harris here, and thanks for joining me on another episode of Strategy Mob. Right, today I have two very special guests. I have Mr. Steven, all the way from down the street here in Toronto. And then Dustin on the other side of the border. Man, thank you for taking the time to jam with us. But before we get started, let's start with a couple origin stories so that everybody that's listening and watching kind of knows who you gentlemen are. Dustin, I'm going ahead and start with you. What is the origin story that is Dustin?
Sure. So I got sucked into this business roughly 11 years ago. Cash for clunkers. So I came in at a good time and started selling cars. Had absolutely no idea what I was doing. But fortunately, every vehicle was sold at MSRP. No one had any trade objections because they were getting about 15 times more than their car was worth. So it was nice and easy. I made some money. I had no clue, and I was sucked in. And just tried to take in everything I possibly could from the very beginning, like I did with my athletic background prior. And that's really it. One thing led to the next. And a couple of people, fortunately, had given me opportunities to grow within the business from the sales floor up. And about 7 years ago now, I was given my first opportunity to run a store. And that's really the quick bit for me. So I'm a player's guy. I'm a player's coach. And that's how I'll be for my entire career. I know nothing of the automotive industry still to this day, I always say. I'm more of a people person myself. But I think that's the industry that we're in. I think we're in a people industry. We just happen to sell and service cars. So if we can master the art of dealing with people, both our own employees and obviously our customers, I think we can be just fine. We can learn everything else pretty quickly.
Dustin, thanks for jamming with us today. And I know
thank you for having me.
We got a chance to connect on LinkedIn, and then we got some time to actually jam in person at NADA. Boy, but did we just literally slide right under the radar just in time for all this to explode, eh?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm glad we did. We had a lot of fun. Obviously, I take a lot of what I see from you. Jesus, you can get the information out there, man. I'm severely lacking with the amount of posts and content that I can get out there compared to you, but it's much appreciated. You shed a sign that not a lot of us on the operations side see, which is nice and refreshing. So I appreciate everything you do. And yeah, we got, what was that, February? Shoot, it started on Valentine's Day, did it not?
It feels like forever ago, but it was literally right around the corner.
A lot has happened since then, but appreciate the friendship and thank you so much for having me here today.
No, thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Hey, Steven, for yourself, what is the origin story that is Steven?
Well, first and foremost, I'll start off by saying thanks for having me, Jason. We actually met online as well, like some people do. Thankfully, not on Tinder. And easy to follow you based on the amount of content that you put on. But the origin story, I actually it actually started with a trip up the street taking the bus. I was at Wilfrid Laurier University. I needed work to pay for school. I saw a BMW store. Came from a city that never had a BMW store, and I loved BMW. So I dropped off a resume. That turned into a chat. That turned into a job after. Actually, I got out of university because the guy who had my interview said, yeah, you should sell cars. So in 2000, I started selling cars at a dealership that no longer exists called BK Motors. It's now Grand River BMW. And the reason for that being an important part of the story is, believe it or not, around 2002, it's when my general manager, same guy who hired me, said, hey, do you want to try a software system Carrie and I are working on? His name is AJ Mueller, and his wife, Carrie, started a system called DLS Accelerator. Yeah, you might have heard the name handed around a couple times. DLS Accelerator began, and I was one of the first users, or the first user of it at Mini Waterloo. I was a guinea pig. I immediately loved the software. Anything was better than, like a notepad for keeping track of, customers and what you're doing. And then in 05, I started working for the company. And in 2011, I started working on my own. And ever since, believe it or not, before you could say there was a cloud, I used to do sales on 180 with PowerPoint because clients did not even have an internet connection. And it's been a long time in one system. And right now in the last 9 or 10 years, I've mostly been working with clients, coaching sales staff and getting process. Process is definitely the thing that I talk to mostly about talk with my clients about the most. And all of that's kind of embedded through the lens of 180. So that's kind of like where I'm at today, sitting with you.
Well, I'm glad you were able to take the time to jam with us. All right, guys, let's get straight into this topic. These are interesting times. I mean, needless to say, right? I mean, I keep kind of referring back to the recession. And I understand, Dustin, you kind of came on, see, Cash for Clunkers would have been kind of dragging ourselves out of the recession. And I remember that time frame, man. I made some stupid money during the Cash for Clunkers campaign. I mean, I tried to tell dealers up here in Canada what it was like. I mean, literally, when you showed up to our GM dealership, it was like going to the butcher's. You know when you got to take a number? Yeah. You get the little dispenser. Like, that's what it was. You would show up, take a number, and then wait to talk to a salesperson. But that's actually a good point to bring up, is what the recession created is what we're going to see right now. It was this built up demand for vehicles. And then all of a sudden the Cash for Clunkers campaign kicked in, and it was like, I mean, the dam broke. And I mean, I remember that first month making almost a little over $30,000 in commissions in just that first month of the Cash for Clunkers program. And I remember because I was actually living in a trailer out back of the dealership. I literally lived at the dealership for an entire month. Just during that time frame, the owner had a trailer and said, "You can live in it." I was like, done. But I think the same thing's going to happen, right? We're going to have this built up demand, and then we're going to come back to normal, or let's not say normal. We'll call it the new norm, right? Yeah. And that's where I want to start off, guys. I want to start off the conversation is how do you guys, see the new norm? Now, look, if it happens 2 weeks from now, it happens, 4 months from now, I don't know. And I'm not going to be one of the ones that are going to pretend on social media like they know the exact date when shit's going to get back to normal, but we are going to enter into this new norm. So, Steven, I'm going ahead and start with you. How do you see the new norm for automotive sales going down?
Well, I think the new norm is going to be in kind of levels or in stages. If I've been talking as I was leading up to this, I would say, and as we talked on the phone before meeting up to do the podcast, we talked about how things that was on a pretty good downturn last year. Like, things were slowing down quite a lot, and I could see that. And obviously, training and consultation and coaching kind of definitely is some of the first things to get dropped off, which I learned the hard way. But I think moving forward, I think it's going to come in stages. I think there's a lot of people in a certain price bracket, and I'm just talking about the consumer at the moment. Virtually every car store has changed processes, has adjusted so that they don't, you don't have to have customer interaction and you can be safe and all that sort of stuff. Okay, that's fine. So where are we moving forward? Let's say in 60 to 90 days, or let's say even sooner than that, we'll say 60 days, we're almost back up and running, which is probably likely not going to happen. Who's going to want to buy? Who was going to buy? Well, I keep focusing with my clients, don't worry about who's going to buy and when they're going to buy. Who do you have now? You have your portfolio. Some customers have to replace their vehicle. It's their only lease vehicle and they have to replace it for the family. Those are going to be the buyers at first, whether they're buying a Hyundai or whether they're buying a Mercedes. And there's going to be a lot of other people who are I think there's going to be a whole generation of people that are going to finally listen to my immigrant Italian parents to say, save for a rainy day. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of spending right away. I think we're really going to have to convince people to spend money. And I really do believe that those dealerships that are doing their best to keep their teams in the know, keep them educated on how to communicate with customers, and certainly those salespeople who don't have to be in person with a customer to sell are going to be the ones that are going to push forward and push through this. Because I personally have always said this to clients when I started, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, Justin, for sure. Jason, the thing that I find that kind of surprises my clients is they'll say, I've done 200 installs, Hyundai, Mercedes-Benz, Lamborghini, you name it. Everyone thinks their problems are different than everybody else's and they're special. And I would say for the most part, whenever it comes to any data or any processing of any kind, the only dealerships I find that work quite differently, I would say, are super luxury, like your Lamborghinis and your Bentleys of the world. It's just a completely different reason to buy. The why the buy is completely different. Everything else, a Hyundai dealer will say, customers leave for 50 cents a month. A Mercedes-Benz dealer will say, customers leave for $5 a month. It's all the same story. So I think it's the approach. And I think those teams that have done a really good job of keeping track of their portfolio and their customer database, their close customer database, I think are going to be the ones moving forward faster. And I think it's going to take us a while to move out of the muck for the next few months for sure.
I'm with you on that, Steven. I think communication is going to be a big part. Our existing database, I mean, the same thing I remember during the recession. It was like when things kind of got back to some norm, right? Mm-hmm. That was the first audience that we had to communicate with was our existing database. Now the cool thing I thought actually with our dealer group, the dealer group I was working with at the time, is that they'd done a pretty good job about communicating to that existing database during the recession, so that when things kind of got back to normal, like our penetration was through the roof. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was like this. Yeah. It was just built up demand. Absolutely. And it was just like the floodgates opened up, and it was I mean, our first month back into that new norm was right around the time during that Cash for Clunkers, and it was hands down actually one of our best months ever. Dustin, I'm going to go to you. How do you see the new norm? Like, what is the new norm going to look like for you on an operations level?
I think I totally agree with Steven. Stages and how much of that penetration back into the market there will be on day one versus day whatever. I don't think there's going to be a day one. I don't think we're going to be able to break it down into buckets or gaps or time frames or what have you. It's just going to be whatever it is. And I think that probably, depending on the geographical region, whether it's Canada, United States, or even regions within each one, it's going to be different. Now, business as a whole, especially, I think more so on the retail side as opposed to the service and parts end of business. And I'm probably beating a dead horse here, but customers are now, I think, realizing exactly how they can buy a car and how easy it's becoming. And if we don't do this, we're really screwing ourselves. So what we've noticed here in the probably 7 or 8 operational days that we've had to remotely and electronically sell cars, and the only person that's coming into the showroom is someone that is literally signing 3 pieces of paper to consummate a contract, and that's it. We're not delivering cars, we're not test driving cars, we're not getting in them. And I'm not even kidding you, the government has come out and stated, if you allow someone to walk into your showroom to answer or ask one single question, can I have a brochure? If we find out about it, you're getting fined. So literally we have had to tell people that have come in or tried to walk from service into the showroom, you have to stop. You have to walk back and you have to call us. These deals are becoming easier. I'm being dead serious with you. Like I said, this month we've already delivered 12 cars. And we're not a large store, so the decrease in volume that we've seen so far is not as much as I was anticipating. The deliveries are taking 20 minutes. We set up a table and a couple of chairs with an iPad, sanitation wipes, a drill, and gloves outside under our delivery area that's an overhang extension from the building. And we're delivering cars out there.
Yep.
I walked out of my office when I knew a delivery was here. They were gone. I said to the salesman, this is today. I said to the sales, he was giving me a recap. I said to the sales manager, I said, where's the customer? He said, oh, they're gone. They're home. I'm like, what? They just got here. Hey, this is what we're going to. I think the customers are going to realize that this is so much easier. And as much as I don't appreciate the Carvanas of the world and how much market share they're taking from all of us, that's where we're going. And if we're not ready for it, and if we're not up to snuff, we're going to go backwards. And when you go backwards, you're harming a lot of people, including the people that give you their time and they work for you and they give you all of their energy and their efforts. And if we're not taking care of them and giving them an outlet to make a really healthy living, we're going to go out of business. but it's really swinging us. We have a sales manager, our internet agent. We have one BDC in our store. She's back to work, and my sales manager's here. And we have 12 cars out in 5 working days. We're a 115 car store, 4 or 5 a day. So we're not ridiculously off pace from what we would be anyway. The only thing I can see here, Jason and Steven, and I don't want to make my answer too long-winded, but the one thing that I think that we're really going to have to focus on, at least for us, who is not one that has put out the opportunity for an online car buying experience, which I don't agree with. I don't think it's going to be 100% that. We're still going to have and want some human interaction, but I think we're going to have to fine tune our F&I process, because what we've noticed is our front end profits so far on those 12 deals have not been affected whatsoever.
Well, I mean, look, the bottom line, Dustin, is you're having to do a lot with a little. You know, like I hate to say it, but a lot of dealerships out there have been able to operate for many years with, multiple people having to touch the customer. Boy, that sounds odds. But no, seriously though, right? Like,
no, it's very true. Absolutely.
You have the BDC, that they handle the lead and kind of prep it up and, tee it up for the salesperson. Then you got the salesperson that gets involved, right? Then the salesperson has to go get a manager involved, so there's another touch point, right? And then the manager kind of assists with the sale and they come to some agreement. And then after the sale, we stick them in this stupid ass thing called a box. Yes. That could literally be a whole nother podcast in itself. Like, why the 100%. Hell? Like, don't even get me started on the box. So now I'm on another 4th person. I had 4 touch points just to purchase a product. And then after that, I have the continued service. So I have another multiple set of touch points after that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think as an industry, we have to sit back and ask ourselves, like, is this necessary? Yeah. Like, do I need this many freaking people to get a deal done? Steven, let's start with you. What's your thoughts on that?
A lot of the things that kind of came to my mind, and again, like the situation that we're all in, and we don't have to beat the dead horse over what we're all experiencing. In fact, I think I got a little overload by yet another comment made just before a commercial starts or just before something, as we're all dealing with. Like, yeah, we're all dealing with it. Let's stop mentioning it. But it is a fact. The fact remains that it's the fire that forges the steel, as they say. It's not the nicest way of putting it, but at the same time, it's very true. And I think in the context of dealerships and how we're doing process, I mean, many clients that I was working with in the last, I'd say, few years, we're talking about e-docs and ways of making the turnover process better and all that sort of stuff. That's all like really, really great. I think the buyers are not going to be stopped. I'm glad you mentioned the thing about coming to service and having customers come in for their delivery, Dustin, because one of the things I just finished recording before I got onto this podcast was a message to my clients. And because I know people don't like to read emails anymore, I start basically writing emails and I add a video in case you want to watch the video. And one of the things that I've been reminding my clients of and have been working with some of my clients on is just changing the dialogue with customers. A lot of systems only allow you to just, broadcast email everybody, but why not scrape out the people whose leases are coming due in the next 60 to 90 days and just remind them of your changed process, remind them that they can pick up a vehicle. That's not a problem. We'll do it very safe and sound. Some of my clients that are, we'll say, of lower volume, like the Porsches and the Mercedes-Benzes of the world, they'll come to you. You don't even have to leave your door. I think the only person in this whole scenario when it comes to the type of customer walking through the door is exactly that customer. That's the only customer that we're losing out on. I think it's the customer who wants to shop. Shopping online started happening when I started selling cars in 2000. We are 20 years later,
me too.
And not a lot of people.
This is not new.
It's nothing new. It's nothing new. But much like to your point before we got started, and which was, who watches your podcast? Salespeople seem to be a little bit more exempt from it. But it's tough to tell a salesperson what to do and how to do it and all that sort of stuff. So now, luckily, I guess you could say, for a lot of managers out there, and people in the car business, the world's telling them now that they have to change, and that's something that a lot of salespeople, as I've learned with process and certainly training people on that. The one thing I've learned in the last few years is that social media, particularly smartphones. I used to walk into dealerships in the 05, 6, 7, 8, right? When people had a phone, but it was probably a BlackBerry. and it was only an email, and they'd actually look like they would actually probably put it away before you started a meeting. Nowadays, I can't get 5 minits into discussion before someone answers their phone and it carries on. And
Well,
I think
you know what? That's actually a really good point, Steven. Like, I apologize for interrupting, but
no,
I
don't worry,
just
don't
wanted to
worry.
like really kind of like hone in on that.
Yeah.
Is and Dustin, I imagine you probably see the same thing, right? Like someone's in your dealership, all right, salesperson's trying to have a conversation with them. They maybe have to excuse themselves to go talk to a manager or find a key or some crap like that. And then what does that person do? They jump on the device and they're on it, right? Like right now, you know, to your point,
100% of the
Dustin,
time.
like everyone's hyper targeted, or let's a next level of attention, right? They're totally in tune with every single word that you say, which means that the words that we say mean a really big deal. Dustin, I'm with you, man. I literally think that the new norm, the process is going to be half the amount of time. I'm going to deal with half the amount of people. All right. I'm not going to deal with 4 or 5 people to make a freaking purchase. I might deal with 1 or 2 or maybe only 1.
Love the one you're with. Love the one you're with. That's what everyone's going to learn, is to deal with the customers that are in front of you and deal with them wholeheartedly. Too many salespeople run through. Okay, Jason gave me the checklist. I'm going to follow the checklist. So Dustin, oh, so you're not really going to buy today. Okay, that's fine. Next. And there's a lot of teams, and being in the GTA, we got some seriously great traffic on some of our streets. And some stores, I'll go from one store just a block down the way, not nearly the same amount of volume, completely different attitude on the sales floor. And I think now everyone's had the crunch. Everyone's
completely
now
different attitude. Right?
Exactly.
And,
so
and in fact, actually, you know what? I think that's a good tee off to my next question, is because I think the new norm requires a new attitude. And Dustin, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I totally agree. But to your point, the attitude can be different from one showroom to the next. But the adaptation or the adopting of this new way of selling cars has to be done initially from the top.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You can have. I mean, nobody's here right now, but if I walked out on any given day, I could have 5 out of my 7 salespeople want to do it this way we're talking about. But then if our process, including myself and the sales manager, doesn't allow them to do that, or we stop them from doing that mid-process, well, what good is it? Yeah. So if this idea is adopted by myself and the management staff or the ownership level or whoever it has to be, then we can allow that to run and take its course through the showroom and through the salespeople. Yeah. But it has to be everybody or nobody. Also, so we have to all be on the
How do we
same
do
page,
that,
whatever
Dustin?
that page is. What's that?
Everyone needs to be on the same page.
100%.
How do we do that?
Oh, well, you have to make sure that everybody understands with any change that you make. Listen, I got to this store. We moved back for family reasons from New Jersey 2 years ago. When I got to this store, and I think we had this conversation, Jason, in Vegas, in the Tesla.
I remember, yeah.
I had people that wanted to quit 20 minutes after I walked in, after our very first meeting. I had 2 people say, can't do it. I mean, you probably know what you're doing, but you are way too much for me. I can't do it. We had to calm them down. We had to explain to them what we're trying to do. But more importantly, we had to explain why what we're going to do, why the changes that we're going to make are actually going to benefit them as well. And then when we give them a chance to try to adopt a new process and it works, they'll buy in. If we try to adopt a new process and they're giving us 100% of their attention and really trying to change and it doesn't work, well, then maybe we made the wrong freaking decision anyway. But you don't know until the actual results come out, whether they're good or bad. And for the salespeople currently with us and probably most stores across the country and Canada that are not even allowed to be at work, we are now doing things a certain way that we are not falling off volume or profitability, with the exception, like I said, of F&I profit currently. And we'll see, small sample size, so I can't really get into a huge, bucket of numbers. But the efficiency to which we've been able to sell these 12 cars and deliver them in the first 5-6 working days this month is surprising. So we have the proof in the pudding. And when they get back to work, we're going to say, hey, listen, this is what we've been doing with just 3 of us. Yeah. Imagine if we had all 12 of us and how we can prolong, continue to do business. And I think it'd be easier for everybody. So it takes the buy-in from the beginning. It takes a little bit of a nudge, but it takes the why. We need to explain why it's going to benefit them. We don't ever ask anybody to change something if it's not going to benefit them, or who the hell are we to ask someone to change if it won't help them? So the why is the most important.
I think the customer is going to force us to change.
Oh,
Look,
100%.
For years, when it comes to buying a vehicle or servicing car, all right, it's a battle between who's steering that process, the dealership or the customer. And it's been a battle. Some dealerships are better at giving the customer more responsibility and steering the process. A lot of dealerships, though, want to hold on to that control. I want to be the gatekeeper of information. I'm not going to give shit up until they give me what I want. So, but I think that the new norm is going to change all of that.
Yeah.
Right? Like the customer is going to be the one steering almost 100% of what that new sales process or that new service process looks like. Steven, I want to hear your thoughts on that from a training perspective, because that fundamentally changes the way we approach training.
Well, I think to Dustin's point, the why or the why of the buy has changed. I think there's going to be a lot of buying and not shopping. And I think we might have seen, or Dustin might see in the next little while, a lot of those deals close quickly because they need to just move on with life. And I'm a single guy with no kids. I drive a coupe. The next car I buy, it doesn't really matter. I have no one, helping me choose. But I think when it comes to process, the processes that I've witnessed, I can guarantee for an absolute fact, after I must be nearing 200 dealer installs. Yes, only on 180, but that doesn't matter. I've seen a lot of processes, how they are. And I'll have a morning meeting, and let's say it's with Dustin. Dustin will tell me his process. I always talk to a FSM or a business manager, and then I ask them about the process. And then if I'm talking to a top sales rep or perhaps someone who's looking after the wash bay or delivery schedule, I'll ask them. It doesn't happen. So process, I will always be very clear about this. You can have a terrible process, but if you follow it, it works. Because process is basically a roadmap. And that roadmap, doesn't matter how much it meanders. If Dustin goes off that roadmap for a moment, he knows where he's at because he has a watermark. And for me, process with a lot of my clients, and oddly enough, the subject of that bit, I got to send this video when I'm done. It's like the same subject. But the processes that have changed for me have always been customer focused. And one of the things that I always am training both managers, but mostly salespeople at, is stop talking to customers like they're managers or staff. No one cares about process here. You got to listen to your customer. They might not want all that detail about the vehicle. You got to listen. And one of the things I've been trying to promote with my clients is let customers know that the process has changed. So yeah, we have these notices on web pages. I've helped clients send out mass email broadcasts. Yes, absolutely. But one of the things I was focusing on with my clients particularly was, hey, if you have leases and finances coming due, does your automated message for 3 months to Jason still say, hey, your lease is coming up, lots of things to think about, blah, 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 blah. No, it should start off with, although you may think it should start off with a description of what the new process is for dropping off your vehicle if you need to replace it. A lot of FS companies, Toyota as well as Chevrolet, they're happy to extend leases. But we have to understand from the customer's point of view, and part of the reason I think we started talking actually via LinkedIn was because of a post I made that actually had nothing to do with process and everything to do with just the situation we're in. And I just saw my own clients separately talking about how some dealers are crazy for closing. Some are crazy for staying open. We should be closed. We should be open. When really it's like, hold on a second. If I have a van and I have 3 kids and my lease is coming due, don't I want to replace that van, especially if it's my last vehicle? If I have a car on a hoist right now, I'd like to get it back from Jason and his team. So again, communication with customers about the change in process, I think will wholeheartedly bring you more customers. I think there are a lot of clients out there, Volkswagen clients of mine, during Dieselgate. They stayed in touch with their contact. They contacted customers monthly about Dieselgate. They gained customers because other stores were saying nothing. And other people are saying, hey, talk to so-and-so. They actually message me all the time.
That's a really good point,
right?
Stephen, that there's an opportunity here, right? Like
huge
in our
opportunity.
communication
Absolutely.
efforts, it's like sticking your head in the sand and not saying anything says a lot about you as a business. Right. There's an opportunity to communicate, but I think communicate at a human level, not necessarily a business level. But before I go into that topic, which I think is actually a really good topic, Dustin, I want to go back to kind of the original conversation that question I started with Steven was, the customer is going to take more of a responsibility of the steering of the process. Do you believe that's the case, or do we still need to kind of hold control of what that new sales, new service process is going to be?
From what we've witnessed so far with this, it's a little bit of both. I think the customers are talking without talking. Their actions are sending their message. But with the conversations that I've been having with customers, and don't get me wrong, I'm not on the phone with customers as much as I once was, right? I don't pick up the phone as much as I used to, although in the last 3 weeks I certainly have. So I've spoke to, email, phone, text, a lot of customers. And quite frankly, what I found is that a lot of them are looking for direction, are looking for answer. Now, my whole career is always about customers just dying to run into a professional salesperson who's going to tell them how they're going to help them. They're going to guide them through the process, make it nice and easy, which I still think is true. But our nice and easy is changing based on what is making them happy. So when a customer calls in here in the last few weeks, they're asking, I really have interest in this car and I want to do my lease is coming up, to your point, Steve. I don't know what the hell to do.
Yeah.
And I simply explained to them, well, here's the thing. You can't test drive a car. You can't come into the showroom. But what I can do is I'm going to appraise your car over the phone. If you can email me a VIN number and a payoff, a VIN number and some miles, I'm going to get a payoff. I'm going to appraise your car as long as it's, all in one piece. We're going to give you a number. I'm going to structure a new deal for you. The exact same car that you have. I'm going to send you a link. We're going to jump on a video call. I'm going to walk around that car. I'm going to give you payments. And then we're going to schedule a time for you to come in. It's going to take you 10 minutes in the showroom. Then they go, well, shit. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm in for that. Mm-hmm. But if we didn't give them that direction,
sounds like a good process
they're not
for me.
Pointing out, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it and all this other stuff. In this time, at least, they're asking us for some guidance. And when we have a firm, definitive process that we're telling them what's going to do and explaining how easy it is for them, they're like, you tell me, what do you need next? I'm in.
Yeah. Acknowledging their thoughts. It's so important. It's just like standing waiting for a coffee and they don't look at you. They're just walking back and forth. And you just need that person to say, I'll be with you in 1 second. Sorry, I'm swamped. That's all you're doing, except you're doing it virtually. Like, so
should I give you my coffee order, although you haven't even looked at me once? Like, are you paying attention to me? I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's the situation that people are in, especially in these times. People don't know which dealers are open, if they're open for service or sales or kind of sales or a little bit of service or any of this nonsense. So all we've done is every single morning, our sales manager gets out on the lot, starts to do personalized walk around videos. We use co-video. We're throwing it on our Facebook and on our Instagram. We're getting it all over the place. We're sending messages all over the place. We're delivering cars outside. We put a picture of our new outside delivery area yesterday. People are understanding. So it's just about letting them know what we can do, what we are doing, and why we're here to help.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's a big part of what the new norm is going to be, is a whole next level of communication that as an industry, I don't think we've ever been accustomed to. No. Like, I mean, I think literally our communication in the past has been, yeah, that's great. When do you want to come into the dealership and I can go over all that information with you? That's not the case. That is not going to be the case into the new norm, right? The expectation of the customer is that we should be able to communicate everything. In fact, over communicate the crap out of everything right now, so that their confidence level in doing business with us, either service or sales, continues to go up. So that's a good question, guys. Let's get into that topic. Let's get that. Yeah. What should we be communicating? All right, as we go into what I'm calling the new norm. Dustin, I'm actually going to lead with you on this one.
Okay. I mean, that's a good question, but I think that our message has to be exactly what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. To Steve's point, I was taking some notes. So let our customers know, especially those that are already in our lives, right? They're already our family. That let them know that our processes have changed. Don't allow them to think that they're walking into a particular process the next time that they reach out to us, and then it's totally different and they're sideswiped by something new. And even though it might be better, they're going to be surprised by it. So let's let them know what's going to happen ahead of time. Give them some direction, give them a heads up, so to speak. That way they know how to do it now, or they know what's coming. The thing is, just like with your play, Jason and Steve, I just sent you a LinkedIn connection before we jumped on. So
okay, great. I'll look for that.
Forward to connecting with you. So I haven't seen
likewise.
too much of your stuff, but
yeah,
in Jason's case, we can't send out one video or one email or one text to a customer.
It just won't be enough.
It has to be repetitive, and this is almost more of a branding deal or a marketing deal. Forget about these. We have not put out one single price on a video that we've shown since this all happened.
Because I don't think the customer cares about that.
No, they don't
right
give
now.
a shit.
That's not the
Jason.
priority message.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah,
you're absolutely correct. They do not care. And quite frankly, people are over that I've dealt with. Again, I haven't done it for a while, but that I've been dealing with over the phone here. People are almost asking for discounts or more money on trades, like as a form of a question. Like, hey, can I get $10 less a month? If not, it's okay, but I'm just figuring that I'm asking. No, I'm really sorry. We don't. All right, I'll see you at 3:00. Like, they're not negotiating. They're just saying, maybe I should be doing this, but who knows? Following this process and this way to sell cars may lead to, I think you said this earlier, Steve, less negotiation, which would be a great thing. I don't know.
Dude, I actually think that's true.
Continue to be put out.
Right now, moving into the new norm, okay, the customer is going to care more about the process than your cash discount. I'm going to say that one more time because I know the people that are listening or watching right now needs a retake on that. But moving into the new norm, all right, customers will give more shit about your process than the freaking discount you have to offer. And I think who communicates that process the best is the one who's ultimately going to win. Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Dustin, when you look at some of my one-take videos, they're all based on just days I've had at stores where I'm like, oh, really? Like, you don't have a signature in your email?
Right.
Like, oh, really? Your phone number is an image within that, signature? Why not make it a number so I can tap it and call it?
Yeah.
I always ask salespeople the same question. If you're complaining that a customer's calling you at odd hours, what did you miss? You missed something. My clients only called me when they wanted to leave a deposit. I only ever split 2 deals in 5 years because my clients knew my hours of work. I change my voicemail every day to say, you've reached Steven Pigozzo, blah, blah, blah. I'm here today until 5, off tomorrow, returning Friday,
Over-communication.
Over-communication is so important. And I'm definitely a verbose mofo. So like, I understand, communication. I work as an actor as well. So I've never minded speaking. But the things that we're speaking, the things that we're saying to customers, the way we say it, the way we portray it is so important. And sometimes, much like going way back to our discussion about the floor and what you're trying to do to make changes, people meet Dustin like, screw him, I don't like him, I don't like his beard. It doesn't matter what. If someone... It's
Dustin has one of the best beards in the industry.
I couldn't even match that.
Look at that thing. God, that's gorgeous.
One of the things that I definitely would say to any client anywhere is that over communication is never a bad thing. Something as simple as explaining to a customer before they arrive, you might have difficulty parking and here's where you go. Well, if we were doing that before, what are we doing now? We should be doing something that's obviously a lot more hands-on without being hands-on. I think some of the simplest things in the world, because someone starts off with that no, I don't like Dustin immediately. Well, what is it? What's your fear? It's always fear. You got 2 choices in life. It's love, it's fear. It's one or the other. It's mostly fear-based in our industry. And a lot of team members, they can't see past, like, let's say, send the customer a video where you have your phone and you're saying, oh, hey, Jason, here's the vehicle. I want blah, blah, blah. They'll see that. And I'm like, but I don't want to be on camera. And I remember this one sales rep, I said to him, I'm like, why don't you just put the phone facing the other way and talk about the car so your face isn't on there? You got their text message. That's all you really need. And he was just like, oh, I didn't think of that. I'm like, yeah, if you don't want to be on camera, that's fine, but show them the vehicle. Everybody has now got a new normal. And however you choose to deal with that new normal, it's completely up to you. But as I've been saying, it's the fire that forges the steel. If you don't want to play along, that's fine. You're just going to learn the hard way that the processes and the stuff that we're trying to put in place, those communications, if you're not having them, why is the customer going to trust you to come in?
No doubt. I love your point of telling someone on the phone something so ridiculously simple. Hey, you might have an issue finding a parking spot here today because we are jammed. Yeah. I'm going to set you aside a spot, and as opposed to here, it's just around the corner, and it'll, whatever the case. It's being 2 steps ahead and understanding it's just understanding what's going to happen. And addressing it before it even happens.
Yeah, and that's only because
talk about a customer experience, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, I mean, it's I feel like the new norm, like it's about the little things. That's what's going to make a big difference. Yes. Steven, I love the fact that you were kind of referencing back to when you were an actor. I mean, read a script. Now that's a fucking process.
No, it is a process.
It's not like take the customer on a test drive. No, it's like you will enter in stage right. You will go to that spot. You will look that direction. You will have this tonality. You will then turn right. You will then. It is
verbatim.
Absolutely. It's exactly how it's supposed to be.
And I've said to many a salesperson over the years that we're all actors. All the world's a stage. If you think you're going to have a bad day and come on the sales floor and be all day long with people, you're not going to sell a thing. So now we definitely have to put on that face, and we do have to move forward. And moving forward is about positive. It's about process. It's about over communicating with customers. And I've told many a person in the past, you know how many people have asked me to give them a call and the message doesn't include a phone number? Do you know how many clients I have who the only number on their signature is the direct line? Have you tried calling your direct line? You know how many of my clients have extension numbers that no longer exist at their dealership? And there's no choice to even use the extension? Why don't you have the direct line? Because for me, if I want my customers communicating with me so I can control my own process with that client, I can control the experience, I need to control it and show the customer the way in the nicest way possible. And that's the difference between a sales rep saying, yeah, around 4 is okay, and another salesperson saying, well, actually got a customer coming in before you. Do you mind we make it 4:15 and I'll make sure I have the car ready for you? And maybe even write up a quote before they get there, take it out of a folder, show them what you've got. At least the customer knows that you're thinking about them and you're thinking ahead. Some of the simplest tools in the industry.
You mean we have to be a professional? Wait a second.
Right? It's crazy. What? Dirty little secret that to be professional.
Take it seriously? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And that type of stuff I find is I think we've given sales a lot of leeway, a lot of rope in this industry. And we
too much.
We allow sales to be something ethereal, and it's kind of like the actor who comes on and doesn't know their lines, but they're famous. So we're just happy that they're there. And I've had many a team get rid of that salesperson and find that their sales go up, even though their portfolio was so fat. But guess what? That toxicity doesn't help. Every sales team, and I'm sure Dustin can appreciate it because he mentioned his athletic background. I used to play football. I played quarterback into university. So I understand what it means to communicate and how important it is and all that sort of stuff. But one of the things that I find on sales floor that I think we're obviously going to start managing well is that team environment, is that pyramid from management to staff. And that coaching, you change the coach on the hockey team or on the football team, everything changes. And there are players going, I can't deal with this guy. I got to go.
Yeah.
I think it's the same on sales floors. And if we're not communicating with our teams, the new processes that are in place, and I guess in the lens of what I do with my clients, everything changes. That automatic email that goes to customers who got a quote yesterday, I hope it's not the same as it was 3 months ago. It should be different moving forward now. Yeah. I don't know how many customers have changed that in their systems, but
that's a perfect point, right? We can't act like business is normal, right? Like it's all these little things. Guys, I know it's getting towards the tail end of our time, and I feel like we got a great rhythm going. We could probably do this for another couple hours, but I unfortunately do. Our time's end. But I want to give you guys both an opportunity to kind of bring in some final thoughts, because I can see the wheels moving in both your guys' heads. You're like, yeah, the dots are connecting. Like, I mean, look, it's the little things we have to pay attention to. I mean, we need to take that, that over communicated, over process, structure like a play has. Right? Literally, it's like boom, 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 boom. This is how it is. And that's what the customer wants. Before we talk about 6 months deferral payments, before we talked about buy one, get one free oil changes, we need to communicate that to them. Yeah. Guys, before I finish, I want to thank you guys for your time, because this has been a lot of fun. Now, I'm going ahead, Dustin, I'm going to ask for your final thoughts, and then Steven, I'll give you an opportunity to chime in as well.
Yeah, I think more so to wrap my whole opinion, and although this is probably going to change about 15 times before we really get back going to what our new normal will be. But I think that overall, the best cultures will get through this the easiest, and that the people that are open-minded and the dealers that are open-minded to take the feedback of what the customer wants. So yes, allow them to tell us what to do, but then communicate, like we've been talking about, with them on how we're going to do it. It's going to jet us into some new hemisphere, and I think it's going to make things easier. I think we didn't hit on one thing, but I don't even know if I'd like to. I don't know that staffing is going to become an issue at some point, because of the lack of touch points might mean the lack of people needed. And I'm not saying let's get off on another tangent, but we want to keep as many people employed as humanly possible. We love our people. Without them, we're terrible. But I think that the best cultures will get through this. The people that are willing to change when change is needed, which is now, are the ones that are going to get through it. And if we stay a positive attitude and keep portraying that to the customers, we're going to be just fine.
And that's why we're having these conversations. We can sit down and have this conversation 2 weeks from now, and to your point, things might change.
Absolutely.
But I'm in line with you guys right now. I think at bare bones minimum, we need to have the conversation as a dealership executive team, as a leader team. All right, we need to start whiteboarding. All right, how we can hand the steering wheel over to the customer so they feel more confident in either servicing or buying a car from us. Steven, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts would be, well, first and foremost, thank you for letting me participate, and nice to meet Dustin as well. Hopefully this continues. It's been really enjoyable. The things that I have been focusing on, and certainly the touch points that I made here in my notes, is basically, what's your playbook? The playbook that I always reference, and my background was football, even though I grew up in Sudbury, I didn't play hockey. But to me, I always use the reference of get your first downs, because if you worry about the first downs, the touchdowns take care of themselves. So to me, it's process, communication, and adherence to process. That's really, really, really important. I hear a lot of great processes. Are they adhered to? Not really. So at the moment, I think a lot of clients, Dustin as well, would probably be one of those teams that will probably break down that process. And it sounds like that adherence, the only struggle, I think, that as we move forward, and because I think there won't be a D-Day, like it's going to slowly kind of happen, we can then bring these people into play. And this is the new process, and this is how it's working. If there's one thing I have noticed in the last half decade, is adherence is a problem throughout every dealership I've ever been at in the last half decade. When I started long ago, 05, 06, you came in, you did the session, we went through the process happened. Now it's just like, well, we'll see how Dustin feels about it. We'll see how Jason feels about it. If they want to do it, let's see what happens. I think now more than ever, as we move forward, those teams that have an adherence to process are the ones that are going to thrive. And for those managers out there that are like, I still don't know what the heck you're talking about when it comes to all this communication stuff. If you're in the GTA, you probably have an employee who speaks Mandarin, Chinese, Hindi, Punjab, Urdu, whatever. You ask them how they communicate with their clients. And those top salespeople, they're on WeChat, they're on all kinds of stuff. Maybe talk to them to see what it is that they're doing that makes the process, I guess, a little bit more understandable for those who are really, they're understanding, they're buying everything that we're saying. They just literally don't know how to apply it. And I think that's my only fear. I fear that there are managers out there that are system managers that can help, but there's still a lot of managers out there that are great sales managers that come out, they'll shake a hand, they'll get deals done. But boy, oh boy, if you sit them in front of a computer, they're pretty lost. I feel bad for those folks.
Perfect
but
point,
we're going to
Steven.
have to adapt, you know.
We are going to live and die by our processes. It's adapt or die, you know, time. That's just simply what it is. Hey guys, for everybody out there that's watching and listening right now, would love to connect with the two of you gentlemen and kind of follow you along with your path. What's the best way to do so? Dustin, I'll start with you.
Yeah, predominantly LinkedIn. I'm on there quite often. Instagram, 2.steps.ahead. And we actually just launched our own podcast this past Friday. Episode 2 is coming out tomorrow.
Excellent.
Yeah, well, I'm
That's
going to
awesome.
put that back up on LinkedIn and Instagram as well.
Can you shoot me the link for that, by the way?
100%.
Yeah, me too,
absolutely.
please. Yeah,
yeah,
thank
no
you.
doubt. Will do. We're just talking about what we're talking about. You know, so
excellent.
it's real life. It's the real world. It's not me just saying that I know everything about the business and I haven't been in it for 15 years. You know, I live this every single day. So this is real life. So like Jason with this, you know, you're doing this on a daily basis. You have tons of clients. So same stuff here. But yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, 2.steps.ahead, and 2 Steps Ahead is the podcast that'll be out everywhere. It's in about 70% of the platforms now. It'll be everywhere else soon.
All right, guys, you heard it. 2 Steps Ahead is the name of the podcast.
Correct.
Definitely go in and check that out. All right, Steven, for yourself, what is the best way to connect with you?
LinkedIn is definitely the best way to connect with me. I always like to remind people there is a contact info page on LinkedIn, and you can click it, open it. My phone number's there and everything. A lot of people don't know that there's that feature, but definitely can reach out to me there. I'm pretty easy to find. You'll see people will find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, even on IMDb. And just simply type in PIG, like the animal, Steven Pigozzo. I got narrowed down pretty quickly, so I'm really not that difficult to find.
YouTube channel. Could you put out some cool videos?
I do. Yeah, I've been putting out mostly stuff for my clients, but I also have been doing some stuff on YouTube with the Tuesday Test Drive. And oddly enough, I started that last year because I just felt like there weren't enough people talking to people. Oddly enough, is the reason why I started it. And it's been very good, a way of me getting my name out there, or getting my face out there, as well as some Wednesday One Takes. Just some reminders for
What's the name
to
of the
not
channel,
forget.
Steven?
The name of the channel is Scuderia Pigozzo, is what I believe I have the channel name as, and it's linked into, of course, it's linked to my LinkedIn as well as to Instagram and Facebook, so it's pretty easy to track down. The Tuesday Test Drive.
Guys, we'll make sure that we include links for everything in
Excellent.
the description of this video. Hey guys, again, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. Man, this was so much fun, and I'm pretty confident we'll be doing another round of these soon.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Steve. Nice to meet you, brother.
Dustin,
thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks,
you.
Jason.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.